Every fortune has a price, and today you're about to discover the highest one ever paid. For decades, Bob Menendez walked the halls of American power like a man untouchable, a longtime U.S. Senator, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, a man whose voice carried weight in matters of war, diplomacy, and justice. To the public, he was just another politician in a dark suit, experienced, polished, maybe even boring. But behind the curtains of Capitol Hill, something far more sinister was unfolding. It started with whispers, vague accusations, quiet investigations. But no one expected what would come next. In late 2023, federal agents raided Menendez's New Jersey home. What they found wasn't just incriminating, it was grotesque. Hidden behind clothes in closets and inside safes, investigators discovered envelopes filled with cash totaling over $480,000, tucked in a jacket bearing Menendez's name. Gold bars, literal gold bars, with serial numbers linked to wealthy businessmen. A $60,000 Mercedes-Benz parked outside. Lavish gifts with no clear origin. The scene was surreal. It felt more like the lair of a criminal kingpin than the home of a U.S. senator, and then came the charges. According to federal prosecutors, Menendez and his wife, Nadine, accepted bribes from 3 New Jersey businessmen with ties to Egypt and Qatar. In return, Menendez allegedly used his influence to help them secure government contracts, interfere in criminal investigations, and push U.S. foreign policy to favor those countries. All while pretending to represent the interests of the American people, he stood accused of leveraging his senatorial power for personal gain, not once, but repeatedly. He even allegedly ghostwrote letters on behalf of the Egyptian government, secretly urging U.S. officials to approve arms sales. A man trusted with national security, bending over backwards for foreign powers, all for gold and cash. But how could this happen? How could a man so embedded in the very structure of U.S. governance fall so deeply into corruption? Some say it was arrogance, the belief that, after so many years in office, he had become untouchable. Others believe greed simply rotted him from within. But one thing became clear. This was not a momentary lapse. It was a calculated, long-term operation. And it left a stain not only on Menendez's name, but on the very institution he was sworn to serve. If you're into real-life stories that expose the dark side of money and power, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here, the truth always comes to light. The arrest of Senator Bob Menendez didn't just make headlines, it rattled the political core of Washington. Here was a sitting U.S. senator, once trusted with overseeing foreign relations, now accused of selling influence to the highest bidder. The media pounced, public outrage exploded, and yet behind closed doors, the real power struggle had just begun. Menendez denied everything. In front of cameras, he claimed he was being framed, that the cash found in his home was withdrawn over the years for emergencies, that the gold bars were family heirlooms, that he had done nothing wrong, but prosecutors weren't buying it, and neither was the public. Inside the courtroom, the evidence painted a damning picture. Emails, text messages, and surveillance footage traced connections between Menendez, his wife, and the businessmen accused of orchestrating the bribery scheme. Prosecutors argued that the senator had acted as an unregistered agent for Egypt, a country that received millions in U.S. military aid and intelligence support. That allegation alone sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles. If proven true, it meant that a senior U.S. lawmaker had undermined American interests on behalf of a foreign power, not for ideology, not for blackmail, but for personal enrichment. But there was more. The case revealed how one of the businessmen had received an exclusive license from the Egyptian government to export halal meat, and how Menendez allegedly pressured U.S. officials to approve certifications benefiting that company. In another instance, he was accused of interfering in a state investigation to protect an associate. Meanwhile, political fallout began to spread. Members of Congress, including fellow Democrats, publicly called for Menendez to resign. Some feared what else the investigation might uncover. Others just wanted to cut ties before the scandal dragged them down too, but Bob Menendez wasn't going quietly. Even after being indicted, he refused to give up his seat, refused to admit guilt, and as the trial wore on, the divide between public perception and political defiance grew deeper. At the heart of it all, one question echoed. How many more politicians are hiding behind the same lies? How many more smiles in Washington are masking the same kind of corruption? Because the truth is, Bob Menendez may be the one who got caught, but he may not be the only one playing this dangerous game. If you've made it this far, it means this story got to you, so drop a comment below telling us what shocked you most, and share this video with someone who needs to know that greed always comes at a price. In January 2025, the verdict came down. Bob Menendez was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison for bribery, corruption, and acting as a foreign agent. The courtroom was packed. Cameras outside captured every second. His wife, Nadine, was also found guilty. Her sentencing delayed, due to health reasons. But the message was clear. The system, for once, had bitten back. Still, the damage was already done. The case exposed not just one man's fall, but the cracks in an entire system. How did it take so long for this web of corruption to be unraveled? How many people looked the other way, and how many still are? Even after the sentencing, Menendez's lawyers vowed to appeal. Some supporters claimed it was all politically motivated, but for the American people, the images of gold bars and wads of cash in a senator's closet were impossible to forget. They weren't just symbols of excess, they were proof of how greed can twist the very institutions meant to protect us. And here lies the most haunting truth of all. This wasn't about a lone man losing his way. It was about a system where power often protects power, where consequences are the exception, not the rule. For every Menendez caught, how many more are still shaking hands, making deals, smiling for cameras, while secretly selling their influence behind closed doors? In the world of politics, fortunes are built not only on promises, but on silence. And when silence becomes the currency of power, it's not just the money that's dirty, it's the entire system. At Shadow of Greed, we pull back the curtain on stories like this, because behind every headline, there's a deeper truth, one that someone didn't want you to know. And now, you do.